There is a number cast into the bottom of this lamp. It reads 1750. Every time one turns up, somebody reads it as a date and starts doing math about the American Revolution. It is not a date. It is a factory model number. The four letters next to it are worth far more because they date this lamp inside a window that slammed shut on one day in 1924. The mark reads E.M. & Co., Edward Miller and Company of Meriden, Connecticut. That name ended on February 24th, 1924, when the assets went over to form the Miller Company. Later, castings read Miller or M.L. Co., so E.M. & Co. is pre-1924 by definition. Add the two socket pulled chain cluster, and you land around 1910 to 1924. This one sat on an antique mall shelf with a $163 tag. Signed, complete, undamaged examples regularly bring several hundred at auction, and dealers ask for figures. Unsigned ones with cracked panels sell under 100. The mark is most of the difference. Now the glass. Everybody says slag glass is named for iron furnace slag stirred into the batch. The Corning Museum of Glass is careful here. The word was borrowed from the steel industry because the marbling looks like the residue left after smelting. Slag actually going into the pot is not documented. The people who made this called it marble glass, or malachite, or vitro porcelain. So here is what you check. The bend. Cheap panel lamps use flat glass. Better ones use bent glass, slumped over a mold until it curves. Bent glass costs far more to replace, so it carries more money. How the glass is held. Look up inside the shade. On a panel lamp, the glass sits in a cast frame, pinned by small metal tabs bent over the edge. A leaded shade has every piece soldered instead. Panel construction was the cheap answer to Tiffany, and it is what most slag lamps are. The metal, most of these bases are spelter, a zinc alloy finished to look like bronze. Find a chip. Spelter shows gray under the gold. Real bronze shows yellow and brings more. The panels. Restorers say most surviving shades have had at least one panel replaced. Hold it up to a light. A replacement reads whiter or flatter than its neighbors. Every panel matching is the condition that pays. Now, the part that explains the mark. Edward Miller took over a small Meriden shop in 1845. By 20, he owned it outright. From the mid-1880s, his factory built the Rochester lamp for a New York company in more than 2,000 variations. Somebody else's name on his lamps for most of a decade. When that contract ended, Miller put out his own lamp and called it the Miller. Meriden, already known as the Silver City, ended up holding Miller, Bradley, and Hubbard, Handel, and Charles Parker, four of the biggest names in American lighting. That casting is not decoration. It is the mark of a company that spent years building somebody else's lamp, then decided to sign its own. Go turn your lamp over. The casting is on the underside of the base near the rim. The letters date it, the number never does.